showcasing local talent, professionals, and everyday people making Salt Lake City what it is today. It's time for another episode of the I Am Salt Lake podcast.
Before we get into this episode, I want to thank everybody for all of the feedback and the comments on episode 233, the episode that was posted before this. You know, I wasn't going to even put that episode out there.
I kind of had a feeling.
You know, if it wasn't for you, Chrissy, I probably wouldn't have.
I'm a pusher. What can I say?
Well, you're not really a pusher. You're kind of somebody who kind of helps even me out a little bit. You level me a little bit. You kind of center me. You bring me back down to earth because I get really anxious and I worry.
Yeah. And
I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose all these listeners. I'm going to, I've going on 4 years of this podcast, doing something a little different.
And you've spent 4 years perfecting something.
Well,
and then we just did something totally different.
I think I've perfected it. So I want to thank everybody for the kind words and for the feedback, for the episode that was posted before this one. It meant a lot to me. It's great to hear from everybody.
It is. It's so nice to actually interact.
It really
with
is.
Everyone.
It really is.
Yeah.
We have a great episode though today. This is episode 234. Thank you so much for joining us. Today on the podcast, Craig Hanks joins us. I know a lot of people might not be even familiar who he is. He's a local podcaster from Salt Lake City here. Always a lot of fun to bring a local podcaster on the show.
We can totally geek out.
Oh,
it's so great.
It is really a good time. Craig does 3 podcasts. I don't know how he finds the time to do it. We're going to find out in this conversation. He does City Stories, The Legendarium, and TV and Jelly. You're going to find out more about those shows in the interview coming up here in a few minutes. But before we do that, let's give some love to our sponsors. Oleo Skin and Beard. Oleoskin.com is their website. I'm a big fan of their products. I know you are as well, Chrissy.
Oh, man. They make some mean face scrubs.
They really do. And if I had a face to scrub, I would probably use it. But I'm a big fan of all their beard oils and beard washes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I am a fan of the scrubs because I am 30-something and I have wrinkles and acne.
I love how you don't give your age because I'm 30-something.
People get a guess.
But they have some great products. Their beard oils helps get the beard soft, beard washes, all different kinds of products to help keep your beard clean and soft.
And I've stopped using lotion for my face. I just use their skin oil. It's amazing.
Well, go check it out. Oleoskin.com. Use the promo code IAMSaltLake. This is going to give you 25% off of your entire purchase. You can get it delivered right directly to your door. Even if you don't live in Utah, order it right there from their website. Check them out. I know Derek was talking about maybe ending the promo code here at the end of July. So jump on it while you can.
It's a good time to stock up.
It really is.
Yeah.
And if you're here in Utah, might I recommend checking them out? They do a couple of the local markets. I know you can find out more about what markets they do right there on the website. And if you see them in person, let them know you heard them on I Am Salt Lake. So we have another new sponsor of the podcast, Distillery 36, right here in Salt Lake City, a local distillery. They are the official I Am Salt Lake podcast drink. They make a delicious rum. We're actually We're drinking some tonight.
Yeah.
You can find them online at distillery36.com. Go learn more about their products. You can find out all the state local liquor stores that you can carry them at and buy it and purchase it. I mean, this is delicious, Chrissy.
It's so good, and it's not like when I've always thought of rum, I've always thought of like Malibu and Captain Morgan, and it's like, I'm not much of a rum person, but this stuff, you can replace vodka in recipes with it. It's very smooth and it's not super sweet.
Check it out. They're on Facebook as well. So go ahead and like them. And if you've this is what I want to do. I'm going to start this right now. Take a picture. Go buy some Distillery 36. Take a picture with you holding it up. Tag it on Instagram. I know they're on Instagram as well. And say, I heard about you on I Am Salt Lake, right?
Yeah.
So wouldn't that be fun? Just everybody
that would actually be awesome.
Bombard them on Instagram with photos of them, maybe even in the liquor store or drinking it with their favorite drink.
Yeah.
I think it'd be a lot of fun. Distillery 36. Check out their rum, Brigham Rum. Good stuff. And I want to thank them for sponsoring I Am Salt Lake podcast. We have some GoFundMe sponsors I want to mention as well. We're going to get into the GoFundMe we have going on after the interview with Craig. But let's talk about, I want to mention Peach Treats.
She makes some amazing earrings.
Oh, yeah. She makes some gauged for your gauged ears and faux gauged ears, so it can look like you have gauged ears.
If you're a chicken like me and you want to look like you have gauged ears, she makes some really beautiful handcrafted earrings.
Cool stuff. And she is at a lot of the downtown farmers markets at Pioneer Park. I know she doesn't do it every week, but she's there a lot of Saturdays. And then you can check her out on Etsy. So thank you very much, Peach Treats, as well as Brent Anderson. Thank you so much for the GoFundMe donation. Before we get into this interview, though, Chrissy, with Craig, I do want to talk about a scavenger hunt that we had to do. So let me give a little bit of a premise here. So I was contacted a few weeks ago by Stray Boots, and they said, we do these local scavenger hunts, and you would be the perfect man for the job because you are Mr. Salt Lake. And I didn't really know a whole lot about scavenger hunts. I didn't really know what they were. And I was like, oh, okay, what is this, thing that you speak of? And I looked into it a little bit more, and it seemed like a lot of fun. And I said, sure, I'm interested. I mean, it seemed like a fun little part-time gig.
Yeah.
And they said, well, go do this. They called it kind of an audition to go do this scavenger hunt. And so last Saturday, you and I, we went out and did this scavenger hunt through downtown Salt Lake City.
It was so much fun.
It really was. It was. I didn't know what to expect, so I was a little anxious. And I didn't know what to expect, and so I was really glad that you came along with me.
I was just excited.
But we had a lot of fun doing it. We traveled around from Library Square over to Grand America. But the funny thing about it, okay, so this whole entire time we're doing it on our smartphones.
So we're both just staring at our phones.
Well, our iPhone.
Yeah.
And right now, the Pokemon Go thing is really hot. Everybody's doing it. So everybody else was around downtown with their smartphones out looking at it, doing Pokemon Go. So everybody driving by was thinking we're out doing Pokemon Go.
Yeah.
And
people were rolling down their windows and yelling at us.
Pokemon. And we're like, no, we're not doing Pokemon. We're doing a scavenger hunt.
And we were actually walking and talking about how everyone thinks we're doing Pokemon Go. And some guy behind us was actually playing it. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
He's like, oh, everybody's playing Pokemon Go. And I thought he was like making fun of everybody.
Yeah, making fun of it.
And I was like, I know, who has that kind of time?
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm playing Pokemon Go.
And then it turned out he was playing it as well. So hopefully, I still haven't heard back from Stray Boots yet. So hopefully I get the gig.
It would be a really fun thing to do.
And hopefully I can start doing these scavenger hunts and I'll talk about them on upcoming episodes of the podcast. And so stay tuned. But I had a lot of fun doing it.
And you know what? It was like a great date.
It really was. But we'll talk more about that if I get the gig. I don't want to promote him too much if I don't get it. So
that's fair.
Like I said, though, Craig Hanks is on this episode of the podcast. We really get in depth with podcasting on this episode.
We do, but it's so much fun to talk about.
Like I said, he does City Stories, and they actually sponsored a few episodes of I Am Salt Lake. So it's really fun to have him on here and talk about City Stories. He does a Legendarium and TV and Jelly.
I was a fan of TV and Jelly before I knew he did it.
Really?
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of that.
It is, it's really entertaining.
Here's the interview that we did with Craig Hanks. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Enjoy.
I'm going to mess with you a lot
All
over the next
publicity is
30
good
to 45
publicity.
minutes.
No, I love it, though. I need somebody to mess with
He
me.
does, because he messes with us.
Yeah.
That's true.
Well,
So-
okay, let's start. I want to start. I'd like to find out where home is. Are you from Salt Lake, or where were you born and raised?
Yeah,
or where?
I split my growing up between here and Seattle. So I grew up in Seattle until about junior high, moved here to Utah, and then, did high school and college here, went to BYU. And then after I graduated from there, I actually went back with my wife to live in Seattle for a couple of years until the birth of my first child. And then money became an issue.
What did you go to school at BYU for?
English language and linguistics.
Okay, interesting. Because I wanted to kind of I was curious of what it was because we're going to get into, podcasting and
Sure.
and kind of that direction in life. And if,
so how
if
did I get
schooling got you there at all?
Actually, I got really into radio ever since I was a little kid. I can remember riding the bus in the 3rd grade, and I don't remember much, but the bus driver's name was Dot. This is up in Seattle, by the way. Her name was Dot, and she listened to 97.3 KBSG, and it was the oldies station. And I just loved listening to these DJs on the radio talk about the oldies, and I loved the oldies too. I was a weird kid, I guess. And then I moved here to Utah and kind of graduated to different kinds of music. And I spent all my time listening to Arrow 103.5 and K-Bear 101.
The best stations in Utah.
I
in
love
my
them. I
opinion.
still love them. Yeah, they're great. And so, I had this kind of fascination with radio. And then when I got to college, I happened into a job there on campus. And so I worked at Classical 89 for a couple of years, working on a talk program there.
Oh, wow.
And it was hands down the funnest job I ever had.
At a classical radio station.
Yeah, well, I mean, so I wasn't...
I dig it.
Yeah, I like classical music. I'm not going to say I'm super passionate about it, but
I
I was
love
working
it.
on an interview program, and so it was, if anybody cares to listen in, it's still going as far as I know. It's called Thinking Aloud. And they just kind of, there's a host who talks to various people on and off campus at BYU about their various ventures, whether it's a new paper that they've published or a book that they wrote or some event that they're putting on, an art gallery or whatever.
That's cool.
So lots of different topics. So I got to understand how to put together an interview. It was, like I said, it was a ton of fun.
Which, believe it or not, it seems like it would be easy, but it's actually, there's a lot more to it.
Ain't that the truth?
And the more you do, the better you get.
Says the man on episode 100 and what is this?
Oh, this is like 200 and
200?
Like
this will probably be 230 or 235 maybe.
5?
My
Yeah,
word.
I don't know how
Yeah.
many.
Too
So-
many, really.
But if we're talking about episodes, there's actually at least been a dozen that have never even come out because of the quality of the recording, or I didn't have the record button going.
Yep.
Those are the best ones, too, you know?
No, you know what I mean? And so I've had to redo it. But no, well, the progression, because you're doing 3 podcasts right now. I mean, we're going to probably jump all over the place
Sure.
here, but just for even people listening, they're like, well, who's Craig Hanks?
Who cares?
Not Tom Hanks.
Yeah, no.
We've already established this.
But okay, let's actually jump. We're going to jump ahead a little bit.
Okay.
To give people a little, I mean, I'll probably do this in the intro as well, but you're part of City Stories, which is a podcast
Yep.
that recently sponsored I Am Salt Lake podcast.
Not anymore, though.
Oh,
I
you're not.
think-
You're not
Did
part
you,
of City
I think maybe you
Stories?
said something racist, and so we were like, no, we can't support that guy.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding, man.
okay, well, no,
You're
no,
looking
very
at me like I'm
much-
serious.
Very
No,
much what Chris does.
No, well, and so I mean, I just kind of want to fill the listeners in
Yeah, no,
because I mean, I love the pilot episode.
we did. Yeah, we did a pilot episode. I'm totally kidding about why. We did come on board with I Am Salt Lake as a sponsor for a few weeks, basically just to help kick off that
Sure,
pilot
man.
episode. And so, it was a ton of fun to put together, but it's an insane amount of work for 15 minutes
We listened to it.
I don't know how you did
Audio.
it. How did you? I mean,
Yeah.
that was
It was
Crazy.
really well put together.
I appreciate that.
It was
That's really
super
nice
good.
of you. Yeah, it was. I've been doing a few different podcasts over the years, but they've mostly been kind of like this. You sit down, you have a conversation. There's not a lot of editing that goes on.
Right.
You finish up and you slap an intro on it and put it out there.
but even that is still
But
work.
even that, people don't realize. Yeah, it's a lot of work. Once you get the system down, it's not so bad. But this was something completely different with City Stories. And so, I thought, what are the things that I really enjoy listening to that got me into podcasting and radio to begin with? The stuff that was really polished and interesting and kind of had a flow to it.
It was it felt very much like an NPR style.
Oh, it's so NPR. I
love it
ripped off
'cause
like 3 different shows to make this.
You did a great job. You ripped him off in a fantastic way. But did you actually did you actually have to go out by yourself and find all the people and How many interviews did you do as opposed to how many you used?
Yeah, so with that episode, full disclosure, move.org, the website that I work for, is owned by ClearLink. And that's the company that I went to. I thought, while I'm working on getting the structure of this podcast just right, I thought I'm not going to wear myself out hunting down all these different companies. So I just went to ClearLink and said, hey, can I interview a few people? And then, I got a couple of names. Cool. And so that, it was a little easier that way. Yeah. But now on episode 2, I'm just about done cutting together episode 2, and I went to 3 different companies, and I had to organize interviews and travel there with my little handheld and talk to them, and then bring the audio back. And I go through about, 3-4 hours of interviews, find the best quotes, the most interesting things that, and a story starts to emerge. And so then once I get all those pieces of audio pulled out, then I can go ahead and craft what I want to say to fill in the gaps.
Mm-hmm. But City Stories is, like you said, a move.org.
Yeah, it's a
production
podcast.
That's right.
So you're doing this. I mean, it's your day job. Your day job virtually is creating a podcast, which is like my ultimate dream.
You tell me about it. It's yes and no. I mean, I got hired on as a copywriter about a year ago or so.
To ClearLink.
To move.org, right, to that team. And then I made an offhand comment about 2 months in. I said, we should do a podcast, because the site is not in a much of a money-making phase right now. They were just about, hey, let's get our name out there, get a little recognition. I said, hey, as long as you don't care about making money.
Yeah,
let's do a podcast, because I can tell you all about doing podcasts that don't make money. So it took, another 6 months before we really got the ball rolling in a big way. But yeah, finally
That's so cool that they
said,
really...
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that's amazing that a company would be like, yeah, great idea. Go for it.
So working at Classical 89 was the funnest job, I say, that I've ever had, partly because it was only 20 hours a week. But now that I've been in the workforce for a few years, I couldn't be happier, because like you said, it's incredible that somebody would say, yeah, go ahead, pull the trigger on that podcast that we have no idea about. They've never produced anything like it.
Yeah.
They don't know how to promote it. They don't know what metrics to look at to see if it's successful. So
I still don't even know how to promote a podcast. You know what I mean? People are out there, and I okay, maybe they're over here. Maybe if I tell people over here, I do, but
maybe
they
we could stand on the street corner with the sign.
I mean, podcasting is such an interesting beast. It really is, because people listen, but you don't always know who they are. So you're always trying to get little statistics here and there. So, but the first, City Stories. Yeah. I mean, how has it been received? I mean,
so far so good.
Yeah.
It's hardly a monster. I'd love everybody's help listening to this. If you want to
go
listen
subscribe to it, please do.
Subscribe to it, listen in. Most of all, share. What it's meant as is a guide for those who are considering moving to Salt Lake City. And eventually we'll branch out to other cities after we do, maybe 8 or 10 episodes in Salt Lake. But if you're thinking about moving here to Salt Lake City, then this is just meant to give you a portrait of what life is like, daily life in the city. Where do you want to settle? What's this neighborhood like versus that? What's the interplay between religion and politics? That's a big thing here. What do people do on a Saturday night? What are the best restaurants? That sort of thing.
As a transplant myself, I quite enjoyed it.
Oh, did you?
I was like, yes. Every time you interviewed someone and they said something, I'm like, yeah, exactly. Duh.
Yeah.
There's mountains everywhere. You can't say, go towards the mountains. No, they're all around us. But people in Utah don't understand that.
If you want to know what she's talking about, you'll have to go listen.
Definitely, go listen. Then we can have inside jokes together, people.
And one of the fun things for me has been, because I'm I don't know, halfway a native of Utah. I might as well be. I've been here so long. And so it was fun for me to be able to take a step back and try to create this episode and create a persona as the host, as somebody who's not from anywhere, so to speak. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely.
And so whatever city I go to, I want to approach it as an outsider, and I include Salt Lake City in that.
So do you plan on traveling to these other cities once they start launching?
Oh, who knows, man? You're 18 steps ahead of me.
So you have to plan.
I know.
You really do.
You have to
I
plan,
would love
but
to.
who knows?
What I'd love to do at some point is, gather 3 or 4 companies that would love to get on a few episodes and then do a quick day trip out to Denver or DC or New York or whatever.
So was this ever meant to be like, a lot of podcasts, like even I Am Salt Lake, we have a weekly release. Was this ever meant to be that way?
Yeah, the idea was, and it still is, I'd like to make it once a month release because it is so intense as a production. And I'm the only one. We don't have a staff of people who know what podcasting is about. I'm the only one. So I'm doing everything from going out and getting the interviews to cutting the tape to, transcripts and hosting and then putting it online. And I do have, thankfully, I've got some help with just distribution. But that's about it.
Crazy.
And this obviously isn't your first podcast, though, right?
No.
Which, obviously, what was your first podcast? Let's even round over there for a second.
First thing I ever did, it's God willing, you cannot find it on the internet. It was called The Weaklings. With 2 E's, thank you very much, because it was a weekly podcast. And it was just me and my wife.
Wordplay.
Right? Yeah, I told you. I was an English language guy. It was my jam. My wife and I would just kind of talk about current events. And mostly I did it because I was still working at the radio station at that point, and I thought, I'd like to give this podcasting thing a try. And so we did 10 or 15 episodes of that. But you enjoyed doing it with her? Loved it.
Did she enjoy doing it with you?
No.
Oh, really?
No, I kept making her cry.
Really?
Oh, that happens.
Current events, and we don't always agree politically, and so
that could be really interesting, though.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
want to get too personal here, but I'm curious. Are you still married?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. No.
So tell me, what's your favorite way to make your wife cry?
It was. We're getting pretty far afield here, but yeah, why not? So my wife is quite liberal, and I'm quite conservative.
Okay.
And so we spent the first 2 or 3 years of our marriage figuring out how to talk about that without making her cry.
Yeah.
And we got pretty good at it. So
that's impressive.
So do you have a tip for couples out there that might,
meet halfway.
Meet halfway.
And I'm not talking about the politics. Don't give in on your principles. I'm talking about how to talk about it.
Sure.
So, I had to learn how to soften my approach to talking about something. And she needed to learn that not to take things personally when I didn't agree with her.
Understand each other's perspective.
Yep.
Can't we kind of say that, though, with all aspects of life, friendships and relationships, work, coworkers, Facebook?
I was just going to say,
how many people do you know on Facebook?
Yeah.
I'm unfriending you because you said this.
Because you have a different opinion. You need to teach a class on how to Facebook and stay friends.
You pay me and I will do it.
Okay.
I will do it.
I'm going to go get $1 million. I'll be right back.
So let's jump a little bit more because you're currently doing 2 other podcasts besides City Stories.
Yeah. So my baby for the last 2.5 years has been the Legendarium podcast. It's a nerd podcast. Those listening can't see it, but I'm wearing my Legend of Zelda t-shirt.
I was just going to say, says the guy in the Zelda t-shirt.
Yeah, exactly.
People eat that up, I'm sure.
Some of them do. Yeah.
The cool ones.
Exactly, right? The ones who, like me, played the trombone in high school and watched too much Lord of the Rings.
You say that like it's a bad thing.
I don't say it like it's a bad thing.
I'm messing.
So we've been doing it for 2.5 years, and basically it's kind of like a book club. That's our bread and butter. And so we're always reading some book, one book or another. And usually it will take us a couple of weeks, and we'll put out an episode discussing that book. And then in between all those, anything that you might find at like a Comic-Con would be fair game. We'll talk about movies and comics and
who's we? You have a co-host?
Yeah, I've got a co-host. His name is Ryan. He and I have been best friends since I moved here to Utah.
Oh, that's cool.
And we got a couple of other guys who are regular panelists on the podcast. I've got a pool of about 10, 15 people who to read this stuff. And so, a show of hands, who wants to read this book?
So it's an opportunity to hang out with your friends, really, while you're recording the show.
Why not?
Can I go way off topic? I'm not really way off topic, but have you ever watched IT Crowd?
No.
Oh,
no,
man.
I hear.
This is her favorite show.
This is
Oh,
like the
really?
best show ever.
Yeah, and she's
it-
always trying to get me to watch it. So
I am,
basically,
and
I
it's
think
not
she's
his thing.
looking for a new friend to watch it with.
Please, I need friends. No, but there's an episode where they try to make a YouTube channel where like three nerds talk about board games. It's a brilliant show. Go watch it.
Oh,
You'll thank
yeah,
me
I think
later.
it's on the Netflix, right?
It is on the Netflix.
Yeah, maybe I will watch it.
You really should.
Because you know what I do this is how nerdy I am. I'm really letting you guys into my world here. I watch a lot of Netflix because it's really easy to do that while you're cross-stitching.
Okay,
Oh
wait a
my.
minute. You're a
Oh
cross
my.
stitcher as well?
Oh, yeah.
As well as a podcaster, a trombone player.
How do you find the time?
I don't. I'm so exhausted, you guys.
You don't sleep.
It's,
Sleep is over.
we haven't even gotten to the third podcast.
Yeah, that's right, because you do another podcast on top. So, so how many episodes of Legendarium are you?
The Legendarium, we're on episode, this weekend we're going to record 96.
Whoa, so any big plans for episode 100? I mean, that's like a milestone, man.
I know. I'm working on that. We need to like do some event at Liberty Park or something. Here's the thing is
Cosplay.
Oh, dude.
Definitely cosplay.
I'm a
do
little
the,
too fat for cosplay.
Do you do the, what's the sword thing that they do?
What? You're the LARPing.
LARPing.
No,
Are you,
I don't.
Are you a LARPer?
No, I respect it a lot, but I've never done it.
Do you want to do it?
Sure.
It's never too late.
I know it's not too late until I'm in the grave.
Do you want to LARP, Chrissy?
I'll tell you what.
I would LARP.
Would you
Maybe
really?
I totally
we'll watch an
would.
episode of the IT Crowd.
I'm looking at
we'll
you
go
with a
LARPing.
different... No.
Now Chris doesn't want to date me anymore.
No, you're a LARPer?
I'm not a LARPer, but I would totally LARP.
Okay, anyway, I find LARPing fascinating.
We're best friends now.
Okay, so
Wink.
you want to plan an event.
Yeah, let's do it. Barbecue. Oh, I was going to say,
it's funny. We've actually thought about a barbecue.
The problem with
Salt
this
Lake
is
barbecue.
the Legendarium, because of the nature of our program, we don't have a concentrated audience like we do here with I Am Salt Lake.
It's spread everywhere.
We've got people listening in Norway, in New Zealand.
I have a New Zealand listener.
Do
of I
you
Am Salt
really?
Lake. Yeah.
Oh,
Shout out to Nikki.
hi, Nikki.
Hey, Nikki.
I wish I could say, hey, Nikki, how's it going? In, a Kiwi accent, but no such luck.
We could try.
Not that talented.
Is that offensive if we like?
I mean, I could imagine it in podcasting. It does get difficult when your listeners are all over versus, to get together and do an event like you said.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe just do
you find ways.
Yeah, do like a live video stream. Do you video stream into your podcast?
You're asking me to get way too technical.
Okay.
I don't know that stuff. man.
Really?
I know microphones.
Okay.
Really?
That's,
Okay.
All right.
That's about it.
Well, don't they have video streaming on your smartphones,
Well, sure, but I'm not going to hold it up while I'm doing the episode.
I don't know. Anyway, so your other podcast, TV and Jelly.
TV and Jelly, yeah. So this one, I don't necessarily claim ownership of it, though I've been happy to take on a hosting role here. TV and Jelly is the coolest website of all time, if in the TV realm.
I think before I found out about you, I think I was on that website reading a blog post that some girl made about maybe The Bachelor.
Yes.
And it was so funny.
It's the funniest thing in
So
the world.
funny. Yeah.
So TV and Jelly, I'll give you a little background. Yeah, her name is Meg, and she's been running this website for a few years, and she just loves The Bachelor and Bachelorette. She love-hates them.
Right. That's why I
And-
like her.
And she does these posts where she'll watch the episode live on Monday night. Presumably she'll watch it tonight. And then on Tuesday, she drops her kids off with grandma. And then all day she spends screen capping it. She'll watch it on her computer and grab little screen caps of whatever moment it is. And then she'll have 80 screen caps for this 2-hour show. And then she'll go and recap it, just tell you what happened.
She will
but she does it
sarcastically
in
recap it.
such a sarcastic, funny way. And so this was somebody, she and I actually worked together in college. And so that for a few months, that's how I got to know her. And I just kind of, kept track a little bit online, and I got a hold of these blog posts, and I just was dying laughing. My wife and I were rolling in the aisles. And so finally I volunteered to write some stuff for the website in kind of a similar manner. And so I did that earlier this year. And then I said, hey, Meg, you know what you should do?
But TV and Jelly, it's not a Utah
So it's not. I mean, it's not an exclusive Utah
Sure.
thing, but she is here.
Oh, so she's in here. in
Yeah,
Utah.
yeah.
Okay,
I
okay,
call
that's what
it
I
a-
was trying to follow along there.
Yeah, so she's here, and now we podcast together. So that's a once a month. You know, and we're just getting started, but we're getting together once a month to talk about TV.
That's
And
awesome.
how can people find that? tvandjelly.com.
Yeah, TV and Jelly. It's tvjelly.com.
Okay.
So you can go and must go read the recaps there. Chrissy knows what I'm talking about.
I totally agree.
Yeah. And then you can find the podcast on iTunes or
Stitcher, wherever.
I haven't
wherever
uploaded it everywhere yet, but I'm busy, so I'm getting there.
You kind of have a couple of podcasts to do that with, so.
Well, okay, so podcasting in general. I mean, you've been doing it for a little while.
Yep.
What would you say the hardest thing with doing just a podcast is?
It depends on the podcast. If you want to podcast with other people, that it presents the hardest challenges in my mind. So you can do a podcast where you just sit and spout into a microphone by yourself, and hopefully,
Which is actually very hard, in my opinion.
well,
to sit there and
I agree.
chat
It's harder to
yourself.
do
Not if
that
you're
than a
crazy
conversation.
and you talk to yourself all the time.
What? Never mind. I was going to make some jokes, but that would have gotten too political.
Let's get jokes.
Let's get some controversy up in
Why
here.
do you think Rush Limbaugh is so good at it? And he is so good
He
at
is. He really is. I agree.
it. What was I even saying? Oh, yeah, the hardest thing about it. So if you want to have a podcast where you speak with other people, you're going to need to schedule those people. And podcasting is, unless you're Adam Carolla, not something you're doing for a living. This is something that you get together on a Monday night and, you know, hopefully people have it, you can work it into their schedule.
Yeah.
But you never know. And so getting people to stay motivated, come on the podcast, whether they're panelists or if, you know what I'm talking about, Chris, when I say getting guests on a podcast.
Oh, it's extremely difficult.
You're doing it every week. And
Yeah.
so you're trying to find interesting people. You're very welcome, by the way. You're trying to find interesting people, get them on and have them prepare. And so working with other people and getting them on the podcast, that's the hardest part.
Well, I think the hardest thing too, I think podcasts are getting more and more recognized, but a lot of people don't even know what a podcast is. So they're
Right.
like, wait,
That's
you want me to
true.
come and do what? Wait, is this live? Is this TV? I think a lot more people are becoming more familiar with podcasting. What would you say, like the coolest thing or a couple cool things that have happened to you since you started podcasting? You know, you hear the story of like, well, you know, some people I quit my day job, and then you get some people, oh, I got a trip to Disneyland, or
Yeah.
you know, or I met this person, or I
Sure. Are you ready for me to get cheesy?
let's
do
cheesy.
this.
Yeah.
So I apparently love fantasy books and sci-fi books. So that's why I podcast about them. The most wonderful and satisfying thing has been when people write in and say, you know, I love that you said this. Or even better, this year we're doing a big series on Brandon Sanderson. He's a local boy.
I was
you-
just going to
you
say,
got her
have
excited.
you've read Wheel of Time, yes?
Hang on.
Okay. It's okay.
I'll let you two nerd out here.
I know, right? Yeah, you can go. No, people. So we do this. We're doing a reading challenge, and we're reading a bunch of his books.
No way.
And so people will write in and say, you know, I never read Sanderson before, but because you guys were doing this reading challenge, I decided to hop on board, and I read this book, and oh my gosh, it was so good, it was amazing,
Right?
and. So the stuff that it's like anything else. It's the reason people go to something like Comic-Con. You have this thing that you hold so dear, and then you put yourself out there and say, "Hey, does anybody else like this?" And somebody comes up and high fives
When
you.
somebody
I totally
knows-
love this.
Yeah.
And you're like, "This is the greatest day of my life."
Like, I want to get a snake ring with a snake biting its tail. Just for me.
and change your name to Aes Sedai.
That's only for nerds. Nerds only.
I mean, it really is cool, the opportunities that come up from doing a podcast. You know, a lot of times it isn't always, you know, money, but it's the opportunities, the people. I mean, even like being able to sit and chat with you tonight. I mean, if it wasn't for the podcast, I would have never met you.
There you go.
And can I get your autograph? While
Well, that's the other
I just
thing.
want to
is,
get in on your book club.
hey, you are welcome anytime.
Sweet.
No, that's the thing is it's obvious that very, very few people are going to make money podcasting, and even fewer are going to get rich doing it. But the other side is you think, well, maybe people are getting their name out there. They're getting famous. No, you're not. Nobody knows who I am. Nobody cares who I am, even if they listen to the show a bunch. And that's fine. It's more gratifying, I think, to podcasters to create a product and, try to find a community out there that enjoys it and join that community in some way. That's the best.
What would you recommend to somebody who wanted to start a podcast?
Plan everything. So what I would recommend is know before you start what the 20th episode is going to sound like.
I love it. That's a good answer.
Don't fly by the seat of your pants. And I would say if you want to start a podcast, if the format that you decide on allows for it, make a half dozen or maybe a dozen episodes before you even air a single one.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I've heard that from I listen to a lot of how-to podcasts. I don't know if you listen like School of Podcasting or the Podcast Answer Man.
I prefer not to learn things.
Okay. Fair enough. But, they recommend this all the time for people beginning podcasts. Even record 5 or 6, maybe even throw them away. Don't even release them.
Possibly.
If they're garbage, don't ever feel like you have to put one out there just to put it out.
Yeah. Yeah, the first 17 episodes of the Legendarium podcast are me and my buddy, Ryan, reading The Lord of the Rings. Not out loud, but we would go read, 5 chapters, and then we'd come in and talk about them. And they're fun and charming in their own way, but they're not very good from a production standpoint.
If you really like Lord of the Rings, it's worth a listen.
There you go.
So
exactly.
Can people go back and listen to those?
Yeah, that's my fear, is that somebody will come in, they'll listen to one episode, and they'll be like, oh, this is kind of cool. I'll go back to the beginning of their catalog, and they listen to episode 1, and they're like, are you serious?
And I feel the same way with I Am Salt Lake.
I think that's pretty typical.
Right? No, but I'm not going to take it down. It was too much fun.
It was a part of your history, part of you. Let's chat a little bit. Unless, do you have any other podcast related questions while we're on that subject?
Podcast related? No.
You want to nerd out a little bit more.
I want to nerd out so hard, but I'm not going to.
Nerd out for a minute.
I don't even know. My mind is just exploding with happiness.
Let's bore the listeners. Let's do it.
We're never boring. This is the whole thing, is we're getting to know who Craig is.
It's true. Right. It's
You're a
nice
bit more
to
of a
talk
nerd
to someone.
than I am.
I'm a huge nerd. Chris is not a nerd.
I'm a nerd in my own way, though.
You're a podcast
everybody
nerd.
nerds out in their own way.
It's true.
I've always said that. Everybody is nerdy in their own way. Even if it's about sports or weightlifting or LARPing in the park. I don't care what it is. You're nerdy about something.
But own it and get out there and do it.
Own it and don't look down on somebody else for what they're nerdy about.
Exactly.
As long as it's not like Donald Trump or something. I'm kidding.
I don't think you need to be kidding. I think that's okay.
You've been eyeing up my Trump shirt I've been wearing.
That's right.
I'm trying to change his mind.
I'm not wearing a Trump shirt for people listening. They'll probably turn the podcast. Anyway, I'm sorry.
No, I'm good. I'm gonna just.
We'll talk.
Okay.
No. So obviously I Am Salt Lake podcast. You've been doing city stories for a minute. I'm always curious. What would you personally tell somebody? They're like, I'm going to move to Salt Lake in a month. I'm going to move in a week or two. What would you tell them? Like, would you anything? Words of advice or something? I don't know. What's the first thing that comes to mind?
Don't listen to the naysayers. You can go. People tend to want to research where they're going to live, and one of the places that they often find themselves is Reddit.
Oh, man.
Really? You think a lot of people go into Reddit these days?
Younger internet savvy people, I think a lot of people find their way to Reddit or comparable sites. There's a ton of sites out there. That's just the biggest example. And people just crap all over Salt Lake.
People are negative.
Yeah. And I find that so strange. Like, why do you think Salt Lake City gets crapped on? I mean, do you think it's the religion? Do you think I do. Really I think there's the biggest issue with this state?
There's a certain amount of pushback, rebelliousness that, people want to stretch their wings or something.
Well, it is kind of a polarized community as opposed to other places in the U.S.
Well, I think it's like anything else. well, no, it's not like anything else. It is its own thing.
It's definitely,
Well,
I shouldn't say that,
it's its own beast.
but there's
it
still
is-
something for everybody here.
But with so many aspects of life, there's the people who feel like A, and then there's the people who feel like Z.
Yes.
And they account for about that much of the population. And you have, B through Y, if I'm getting my alphabet right.
Something like that.
Something like that. There's all these people in the middle who probably just don't care.
That's the thing.
Or they're passionate about something else. But the
Right.
loudest people are the people who are either
Are too opinionated.
need to get you in the baptismal font today, or they're the people who, throw eggs at the local chapel because they're bored.
Right. I agree. It's just the kind of, I shouldn't say that. But yeah, the loudest people,
Just say it, Chrissy.
the dumbest people are the loudest people. That's what I say.
Says the room full of podcasters.
I think you make a valid point there, though.
And the people who don't care about other people's opinions are the loudest people. There are other people out there, but they're busy living their lives and not trying to run yours.
Fair enough.
And I think Salt Lake has its share of people like that.
But you know what? I would just counter that with try going to Portland and not recycling.
Oh man.
You know what I mean?
See,
Like,
that's worse.
so people are nerdy about their own things.
Right.
Here, there's a lot of people that are nerdy about their religion.
Right.
And that's a
But
that's
I don't
a
feel
different
that
thing.
so much in Salt Lake, though,
Well, and
directly.
that's one of the things
especially
I'm-
when you start getting closer to downtown, you don't feel that so much.
Hey, that was my quote.
And that was your
You're just stepping all over my quote from
Well, we memorized
City
it. We're
Stories.
just gonna quote the whole podcast, just in chunks.
Yeah, no, actually, it wasn't my thing. It was,
But because it's the truth.
yeah, it was something I gathered from others that I was interviewing. It was something that I thought was true,
sure.
but they were saying it, which is the closer you get to the headquarters of the LDS Church within Utah, the closer you get, the less you feel its effects.
Yeah.
Which is weird, right? But
It is
it's true.
weird. Was it interesting for you because you actually, you kind of grew up in Seattle?
Mm-hmm.
Is it interesting for you to do something on people moving to Salt Lake? Like, do you have an opinion or specific things about Salt Lake that you kind of want to share because you've had the experience of coming here?
I was young enough that I consider myself more or less a native.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, technically I'm a transplant, but
You've been here for so long.
yeah, I've been here for so long.
You basically feel like you grew
it's
up
my
here.
baby.
Well, that's
Okay.
kind of even myself.
Yeah.
I moved from California when I was barely 16, and it's hard to even consider myself a Californian anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, that was over 23 years ago.
So old.
Well, no, I mean, I'm not even saying it in that way that I'm an old man, because I do feel my back hurts today. But no, I've been here for so long. It's I'm more Utah than Californian.
Yeah.
I'm worried
And
that's happening to me
My
too.
family
There's nothing wrong
that's
with it.
from
Embrace
California
it.
that might be listening to, I'm sorry I'm not owning California right now. No, but what did you learn about Utah that you didn't know? I mean, because I'm sure you learned a lot, right? I mean, or
Yeah.
you haven't even probably fully gotten out there with City Stories.
Yeah, it's what I'm learning.
Because I've discovered a ton by doing this podcast. Like, whoa, this is going on. Whoa, this is happening. Whoa, this person does what,
Yeah.
And I'm sure that there's things you've learned that you're like, wow, I didn't know that about Utah.
Yeah, one of the things I've learned, this isn't necessarily from the podcast itself, but from move.org, it's the site itself. I'm learning a lot about Salt Lake City neighborhoods and what distinct flavors we have within Salt Lake City limits. By our count, we have 18 distinct neighborhoods, and boy, they are different as night and day. Well, some of them are different.
There's actually like a map. Have you seen the map?
Oh,
of
yeah.
Yeah, I just found that the other day. It's interesting.
Yeah, so that's one thing.
But don't you think all cities
Salt Lake.
kind of have those different neighborhoods
Sure.
where they have, the different religion, culture types?
But think about it with the Salt Lake City idea in mind that people come in from out of town and they're like, oh, Salt Lake City, Mormons, mountains,
Yep.
and that's it.
Yep.
And so they don't expect what you would find in Chicago or Seattle, where you have really, segmented neighborhoods where you have very distinct types of populations. Now,
You got
granted,
the rich people, the hippie people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, one of my favorite things has been I would sit down, I would play this game with my coworkers every once in a while, and it would be make up a profile. Just shout at me like who you are. You're a 38-year-old unwed mother of 3, and you make X number of dollars a year. and I'll tell you what neighborhood you should go live in.
Hey,
you know, like,
actually,
been a
me.
lot of fun.
Can you tell me what neighborhood that I
Okay,
should go to?
let's play a game. Okay, okay. So, let's.
Unwed mother of 3,
Oh,
full-time
really?
job. Yeah.
Nice.
What neighborhood should Chrissy live in?
Let's see. I'm gonna go with Rose Park on this one.
Oh man.
No, and here's the
Come
thing.
on. Does
look
no.
Rose Park.
No. Let me tell you why. And this is for the native Salt Lakers out there.
I disagree, by the way.
There's
Rose Park
a
is happening.
misperception
Yeah.
of Rose Park, big time. Now, people just mix up Rose Park with everything else on the west side. You have Rose Park, you have Fair Park, you have one that I'm missing, and then Glendale. I'll kill myself later for forgetting what that third one is. But they think of Glendale, and then Rose Park is everything north of Glendale, and it all sucks. And that's just not true. Rose Park is very charming. It's a wonderful place.
And it's up and coming. I mean, that's where like a lot of the newer development is. And
yeah, so the reason I say that is because of that. You know, it's kind of up and coming. It's an interesting area. It's a little cheaper. You're certainly going to find better prices than you would in, say, Sugar House.
Definitely.
Or, you know, which is a fun, trendy neighborhood.
I was really hoping you'd say Sugar House.
But I also find a lot of people, they kind of associate Sugar House people as kind of uppity, kind of, aren't too good for you. Even though, I mean, I love Sugar House.
I would say that's the avenues.
I've lived in Sugar House.
So the question is, do you grocery shop at Smith's or Harmon's? Which, that's going to dictate where I send you. Rose
Walmart.
Park
Where
or
does
Sugar House.
Oh wait, I don't shop at Walmart.
No, what if you shop at like Maverick or something?
Oh gosh.
You're just a gas station shopper. Okay, Smith's. Say you grocery shop at Smith's.
No, that's what I'm talking about.
Oh,
like if you
curious.
shop at Smith's, stay in Rose Park. But if you prefer to shop at Harmon's and pay an extra 20% for your groceries, you can probably afford to live in Sugar House.
But do you think anybody really prefers to spend an extra 20% on their groceries?
Have you been to the downtown Harmon's?
Yeah,
I used to live
Yeah.
across
That
from
should
the
answer
Harmons
your
in
question.
Draper,
True.
but it was convenient.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's
I did spend my whole paycheck there.
I live on Capitol Hill, and so that Harmon's downtown is sometimes the closest option.
Exactly.
And my wife's like, for heaven's sake, don't buy milk there. Just buy whatever you need, not what you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you do make a valid point there, though.
Let me tell you something else interesting that I've learned that getting out of Salt Lake City itself. Because in episode 2, this is something that's really come up a lot. We're talking about Silicon Slopes, this phenomenon of tech that's been blooming in Utah over the last decade. And one of the interesting things I found out is that companies will usually start in Salt Lake or Provo. Mm-hmm. And then as they mature, they move to Lehigh. And they do that because it's straddling the border between Salt Lake and Utah counties.
So they can get employees from both?
So they can get employees from both, because people, when they, that might be a question that I ask somebody when they're moving in is, do you have a family? Is family life important to you?
Yeah.
Or do you want to go out on Saturday night to the club or the bar or wherever you go? Because that's going to dictate where you end up. I asked one person I was interviewing, I said, what's the difference between Salt Lake and Utah County? And they just leaned right into the microphone and said, do you drink beer?
That's valid.
There you go.
That's valid.
And so it's like Utah County is this, it's just tailor-made for people who want to raise their little family in a quiet place.
And it's a great place for that.
Exactly.
It really is.
But is it though?
Well,
is Utah County? Do you really? I mean, because then you have them all
your
based on
kids
that
do come home from school going, oh, you drink coffee. They taught me at school that coffee is bad. And only
Yeah,
bad
I mean, I
people
don't
drink
think
coffee.
that's necessarily. I mean,
So-
I think there's neighborhoods in Utah. Sugar House is a perfect example. You got some good neighborhoods to raise kids there.
No, absolutely. But I'm of the opinion that every neighborhood is going to be right for somebody.
Oh, definitely.
So I don't
Absolutely,
I don't love the there's a bandwagon that has been going on for I don't know how many generations of we hate Utah County because it's not X enough. It's not Portland enough. It's not Democrat enough. It's not whatever enough. But it's right for somebody. Just because it's not right for you,
That's
there's nothing
very
wrong
true.
with that.
Oh no, my mom.
Hey.
I got family down there. I mean, it's right for them. They love it there.
Yeah,
Not
but
me.
you
I
would
had to
rather
get
live
out
here
of
in
there.
Salt
Yeah.
Lake County. And this is where I live for good reason.
Yeah.
I love it here. This is the right place for me right now. So anyway, so that's been interesting to, kind of to see that battle between
Sure,
Salt Lake
man.
and Utah County and the differences.
That's actually really fun.
It's a ton of fun.
We should start
Yeah.
some battles like that on I Am Salt
totally
Lake.
should.
I
I'm
don't
down.
know. Maybe get a Utah County person and a Salt Lake County person sitting across from each other, and they're just
And-
angry. And then
After the verbal discussion, we have to have a boxing match.
Are we talking giant gloves or like 8 ounce? Like really do some damage.
Let's do giant gloves because it has to be funny too.
Oh, okay.
Maybe we'll throw a kangaroo in there. You never know.
favorite local eating spots. I have to ask this. Do you
Rich's
have-
Burgers.
right there on 300 South.
Yep. Right on Broadway and about Main Street.
Right by Spitz.
Someone's
Yes.
never taken me there.
What?
Well, I don't know if I've ever gone there. I might
I
have
just
gone.
met you, Chrissy. I mean, come on.
I'm so disappointed.
Okay, so if I was to go there and order a burger, what would you recommend to somebody?
There's the Bayou Burger that is
Okay.
my favorite. So it's got some peppers and onions and whatnot, but he puts Cajun seasoning on it. So it's not too crazy. There's some burgers that he does with some pretty wild ingredients. I'm a pretty simple guy, but I like the Cajun
Sure.
spices on that.
Yeah, no, I know exactly where it's at. But for people listening, it's on Broadway,
300
there.
South and about Main Street. I think it's like 50
Yeah.
East or
Right
something
across.
like that.
It's right by Junior's.
Yep.
Junior's Tavern. There.
So yeah, a lot of people you might ask what's your favorite burger in Utah or in Salt Lake, and everybody I know says Lucky 13, which is a great burger. Don't get me wrong, but so few people it seems like have gone to Rich's Burgers and experienced the majesty.
So you think Richard's is pretty comparable to Lucky 13?
I think it's better.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm gonna accept that challenge, and I will.
I think
get
we should
back to
accept
you.
that challenge tonight.
Yeah.
I'm getting hungry.
Any other eating spots that you?
So the Dodo is a classic,
sure.
or is it just called Dodo? I'm never quite sure.
I know
But
2100
it's there
South
in Sugar House on 21st South, right by Sugar House Park. Their dinners are fine, but their desserts are exceptional.
Really?
They have a banana cream cheesecake that is off the charts. It is exactly what it sounds like. They take a cheesecake and that's your bottom layer, and then they put a banana cream pie right on top of it, and it is divine.
Well, I know where I'm going to take you for dessert, Chrissy.
Right on. After Rich's Burgers.
Burger, we'll go over to Dodo and get some dessert.
And then you will die. It's just
That's okay. We'll die
fair
happy,
warning,
right?
Yeah, it's the
Our arteries will clog. We'll go out peacefully.
that is not a happy evening when you're done with it. Whew.
Any other places you want to mention real quick? I mean, I know we could go on here all night.
Oh yeah,
but
off the top of my head, no. I'm well. No, actually, there is one more. Bruges Waffles. They've got a few locations now.
that was right. Yeah, right.
Their
right there
original
on Broadway as well.
Oh, is that the
yep.
place on Broadway?
Yeah, right by Pioneer Park.
Exactly,
Yeah,
right across the
I
street
want to
from
eat
Pioneer
there all
Park.
the time.
It's actually run by an actual Belgian. He immigrated from Belgium.
His
and
tagline should be like, "My Belgians are better than yours.
and bigger.
They're bigger than yours."
Yeah. So he has business that he runs elsewhere and
Sure.
made a bunch of money, makes a bunch of money doing that. But he decided to take a month off to perfect this waffle recipe. And he and I can't remember if it's his brother or his friend, and they just took a month off and cooked for 30 days
Really?
straight. 8 hours a day, they made waffles until they got it just right.
Well, it sounds like you know the story very well.
I did. I used to work in banking, and I notarized some documents for him.
Okay, I was going
And
to say, wow, how
since
do you know that
since
so
I
well?
speak French, we had a nice conversation
Interesting.
about it.
Did you
so.
work? So did you work in like small business lending?
A little bit, yeah.
Interesting. That's very interesting to me.
I've got the weirdest resume, you guys. It's the weirdest.
No, I love it. I love it. Let's go down the list. Your podcasts again, just so people that are listening can go check them out. Do you have websites for
Yep,
them?
absolutely.
or-
So, City Stories you'll find at move.org, since that's who's producing it. Or we host on SoundCloud. So you can go to soundcloud.com/City Stories or just search it on iTunes. The Legendarium is where I host my big one. That's the one I've been working on the longest. So yeah, the legendariumpodcast.com, or you can find us anywhere with that one. And then the third one is tvjelly.com. The podcast is called TV and Jelly.
Awesome. Anything else you want to add before we wrap this up? Any other questions you have, Chrissy or Craig? Do you have anything that we maybe didn't chat about that you want to bring up?
I just want to go read more TV and Jelly and check out Legendarium. Honestly,
You should. You should, if you're a
Yeah.
Sanderson fan.
Oh man, I love Sanderson.
Yeah, I would say if you are a Utahn, or if you're just listening to this and you're from somewhere else and you don't know this, you need to get familiar with Utah's author scene.
And I'm not that up on the Utah
it is
author scene.
vibrant.
It's pretty good.
Especially in the sci-fi fantasy genre.
I could really go off about Robert Jordan and how Brandon Sanderson
how-
and all
how he
that,
fixed it.
how he fixed it. I could go on about that forever.
No, I will give a quick shout out just on this subject to Celeste Cheney. She's from down in Draper, I want to say. And she wrote a book that published last year, and we had her on the podcast. And it was a great debut novel. It's called In Absence of Fear. I have no idea why I'm hawking this right now. It's not like I'm getting paid for it or anything, but I really enjoyed it.
But that's what it's all about, man. Recommendations of what your
Isn't
favorite
Levin
things are.
Thumps? Wasn't he a BYU?
Yeah, is that Brandon Mull? I don't remember.
I think it is Brandon Mull.
Yeah,
I think.
he's a Utah guy.
That was good too.
So yeah, I would just say, yeah, check out those Utah authors, see what they're doing, because it's pretty incredible how they're taking the fantasy and sci-fi publishing world by storm. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I need to check more of them out. But introduce me to some Chrissy.
I'll nerd you up like real good.
That
All right.
sounded filthy, by the way.
Oh, it was. It was.
Anyway, we'll end it there. Thank you so much, Craig, for sitting down. And I'll get all those links at iamsaltlake.com. That way people can check out your podcast, check out City Stories.
And if you do, let me know that you came from I Am Salt Lake. I'd love to see where you guys are coming from.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely.
Send us a note.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Craig. All right. Many thanks goes out to Craig Hanks for joining us on this episode of the podcast. Hopefully you all enjoyed it, and head on over to iamsaltlake.com/234 for episode 234. There's going to be all the links for his podcasts right there online. Connect with him. Tell him you heard him on I Am Salt Lake.
Yeah.
Let him know what you thought of the interview. We would love to know your thoughts as well.
Absolutely.
So let us
Send
know.
us a note.
Let us know as well. I want to talk about, though, Chrissy, our 4-year anniversary for the podcast is coming up.
Next month, right?
The end of August, roughly the end of August, beginning of September. We're still a little uncertain on what we're going to do.
Yeah.
So it's really important that you follow us on social media, Facebook or Twitter.
We'll definitely update it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, as we know what's going on.
Absolutely. So please keep an eye out on there. You can find us on Twitter, I Am Salt Lake on Twitter, I Am Salt Lake on Facebook, or you can follow Chrissy's Twitter account. What's your Twitter account,
If you're
Chrissy?
interested, I am at Chrissy Tweets.
So make sure, and that's with a K.
With a K.
K-R-I-S-S-I-E.
My name's horrible to spell.
Yeah, nobody can spell your
I
name
know.
correctly. I genuinely feel bad for you for that. So
I'll just have to change it.
keep an eye out for that. I wish we had some news to do. We've just been really crazy busy, so we haven't been
Yeah.
able to set anything in concrete for that. We do have a GoFundMe going on right now. This is really important, and this is really going to help keep the podcast moving forward.
Yeah.
We set up a GoFundMe to help the podcast get some new equipment. You can go to iamsaltlake.com, and there's a banner up top there that's going to click you over to the GoFundMe. You can find out more about it, kind of what we're raising money for, and kind of some of the kickbacks that you get for becoming a GoFundMe sponsor. I mean, honestly, guys, even if you can only do $1,
Yeah.
it really will help out immensely.
If everyone donated $1, we would reach our goal.
We're so close, so close. And I'm kind of sick of talking about it. I want to kind of move on from this,
Yeah.
but
It'd be
unfortunately,
really nice to upgrade equipment.
unfortunately, we haven't reached our goal yet. And we could really use your help for that. So head on over to iamsaltlake.com and click the banner up top. Anything else you want to mention, Chrissy, before we wrap this show up?
I'm just excited to listen back to this interview.
With Craig Hanks, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, again, many thanks to our sponsors, Oleo Skin and Beard and Distillery 36. Check them out. There's links for them on our website as well. You guys have a great week. Enjoy the city you live in, and we'll catch you again next time. Bye now.